The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and nobody looked up at the sky expecting their world to change forever. But at exactly 9:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet went dead for 30 seconds. When the signals came back, there was only one message playing everywhere. People of Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English. We are the Galactic Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. Dr. James Wells was in his lab at the Deep Space Research Center when the broadcast began. He dropped his coffee mug, watching brown liquid spread across years of research notes. On the screen above his desk, a creature that looked like a tall, thin human with gray skin and glowing red eyes stared directly at him. "I am Ambassador Krill," the alien continued. "I speak for the High Council of the Dominion. We have watched your species for 67 of your years. We have studied your wars, your technology, your weaknesses." President Hayes was in the Oval Office when his chief of staff burst through the door. "Sir, you need to see this right now." The president looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. "Your planet will provide tribute to the Dominion," Ambassador Krill announced. 50% of all natural resources, 30% of your population for labor assignments, complete surrender of all military weapons and vessels. You have 7 standard days to comply. General Brooks was at the Pentagon surrounded by his staff officers. They all stared at the screen in stunned silence. The general's mind was already racing through Earth's defenses. Nuclear missiles, fighter jets, tanks, aircraft carriers, everything suddenly seemed like toys compared to what they were facing. "Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization," the ambassador said with no emotion in his voice. "To demonstrate our commitment to this outcome, observe the fate of 3 worlds that chose resistance." The screen changed. It showed a blue-green planet covered with oceans and continents. Cities sparkled with lights across the night side. Then massive ships appeared in orbit. Dark triangular vessels the size of small moons. Beams of pure energy lanced down from the ships. Where they touched, the planet's surface turned to glass. The oceans boiled away. The atmosphere burned. In less than 10 minutes, a living world became a dead rock. This was Velos Prime, Ambassador Krill's voice explained. Population, 4 billion. They refused tribute. The second planet was smaller, covered in red deserts and silver cities. The same ships appeared. The same energy beams fell. The same destruction followed. Keth Minor. Population, 800 million. They also refused. The third world was beautiful with purple seas and golden continents. Its fate was identical to the others. New Taria. Population, 12 billion. Their resistance lasted 6 hours. The screen returned to Ambassador Krill's face. "Your species has shown promise in warfare and technology. This is why you are offered the choice of tribute rather than immediate destruction, but make no mistake, the choice is tribute or death. There are no other options." Dr. Wells grabbed his phone and called his assistant. "Get me Director Cole at Earth Defense Command. Now." Around the world, leaders were making similar calls. Emergency sessions were being organized. Military commanders were checking their weapons. Scientists were running calculations that all came to the same terrible conclusion. "The Dominion fleet will arrive in 7 days," Ambassador Krill continued. "Prepare your tribute. We will take what we require and leave your world functional. Resist and we will take everything, leaving nothing but ash and memory." The broadcast ended. Normal television programming resumed. But nothing would ever be normal again. Within an hour, every world leader was on a secure video call. President Hayes looked at the faces of presidents, prime ministers, and kings. They all wore the same expression. Fear mixed with desperate hope that someone somewhere had an answer. "What do we know about their technology?" asked Prime Minister Chen of the European Federation. General Brooks pulled up a holographic display. "Based on the broadcast, their ships are massive. The energy weapons they used on those planets are beyond anything we've ever seen. Our best nuclear weapons would be like firecrackers against them." "What about our space defenses?" asked President Reeves of the African Union. We have 3 combat-ready space stations and maybe 50 armed satellites, General Brooks replied. Against what we just saw, they might as well be paper airplanes. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth was defenseless. But Dr. Wells was thinking about something else. He was thinking about Project Prometheus, hidden deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. He was thinking about the quantum experiments that had been running for 15 years. He was thinking about discoveries that were so classified, even most world leaders didn't know they existed. There might be another option, Dr. Wells said quietly. Every face on the screen turned to him. President Hayes leaned forward. What kind of option, Doctor? I need to speak with Director Cole first. There are some capabilities that most people don't know about. What are you talking about? General Brooks demanded. I oversee all military research. What capabilities? Dr. Wells looked directly at the camera. The kind that might make the Dominion regret coming to Earth. 3 hours later, in a bunker 600 feet beneath the Pentagon, a small group of people gathered around a table. President Hayes was there, along with General Brooks and the heads of the CIA, NSA, and NASA. Dr. Wells sat at the head of the table next to a woman in a black military uniform with no name tag or rank insignia. This is Director Cole, Dr. Wells said. She runs the programs that officially don't exist. Director Cole activated a holographic projector. The room filled with images of strange devices, experimental spacecraft, and weapons that seemed to bend light around them. For the past 15 years, she began, we've been preparing for this day. Not because we knew aliens were coming, but because we knew that someday someone would threaten Earth's survival. General Brooks stared at the images. I've never seen any of this technology. That was the point, Director Cole replied. While everyone was building bigger bombs and faster jets, we were building something different, something that works by changing the rules instead of following them. She pointed to an image of a sleek black spacecraft. This is the prototype for our Ghost Fleet. Ships that exist in multiple dimensions at once. Weapons that don't destroy targets. They convince reality that the targets never existed in the first place. President Hayes felt a spark of hope for the first time since the broadcast. Are you saying we can fight them? Director Cole smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Sir, I'm saying we can do something much better than fight them. We can show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Outside, people were panicking. The stock markets had crashed. Riots were starting in major cities. Religious leaders were calling it the end times. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, in facilities that didn't appear on any map, machines were humming to life. Machines that would soon teach the Galactic Dominion a lesson they would never forget. The countdown had begun. 7 days until the Dominion fleet arrived. 7 days until they learned why you should never corner a species that has spent its entire history finding new ways to kill its enemies. The elevator descended for what felt like forever. President Hayes watched the numbers on the display climb higher and higher. Level 50, 60, 70. They were going deeper underground than he thought possible. How deep does this go? He asked Director Cole. Deep enough that even nuclear weapons can't reach us, she replied. And deep enough that alien sensors can't detect what we're building down here. General Brooks stood beside them, still angry about being kept in the dark. I want to know why my own government has been hiding this from me. Dr. Wells adjusted his glasses. Because 15 years ago, we discovered something that changed everything. We found out that the universe doesn't work the way we thought it did. The elevator stopped at level 89. The doors opened to reveal a corridor that stretched beyond sight in both directions. The walls were lined with a strange metal that seemed to shift color when you looked at it directly. Welcome to the Prometheus facility, Director Cole said as they walked, home to humanity's greatest achievement and biggest secret. They passed through multiple security checkpoints. Each one scanned them with devices that looked nothing like normal technology. The scanners hummed with energy that made the hair on their arms stand up. What exactly is Project Prometheus? President Hayes asked. It started as an attempt to understand quantum mechanics, Dr. Wells explained. But we discovered something incredible. Reality isn't fixed. It can be changed, rewritten, edited like a computer program. They entered a massive chamber that took their breath away. The room was the size of an aircraft hangar, filled with machines that defied description. Some floated in midair without any visible support. Others seemed to exist only partially, fading in and out of view like mirages. Dr. Martinez approached them from across the room. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her smile was bright with excitement. "Mr. President, you need to see what we've accomplished." She led them to a platform overlooking the facility's main workspace. Below, technicians in special suits worked on devices that hurt to look at directly. The machines bent light around them, creating rainbow patterns in the air. 16 years ago, we intercepted a radio signal from deep space, Dr. Martinez began. It wasn't alien communication. It was something much more interesting. It was raw data about how reality itself is constructed. General Brooks frowned. "I don't understand. What do you mean how reality is constructed?" "Think of reality like a computer program," Dr. Wells said simply. "Everything you see, everything you touch, it's all just information. And if you know the right codes, you can edit that information." Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display. It showed a small metal cube sitting on a table. "Watch this," she said, typing commands into a console. The cube began to change. First it became a sphere, then a pyramid, then something that had too many sides to count. Finally, it simply wasn't there anymore. "Where did it go?" President Hayes asked. "Nowhere," Dr. Martinez replied. "We convinced reality that it never existed in the first place. It's not destroyed or hidden. It literally never was." General Brooks stared at the empty table. "That's impossible. So is faster than light travel, but the aliens do it," Director Cole said. "The difference is, they're still following the old rules. We learned to make new ones." They moved deeper into the facility. Captain Torres met them at the next section, standing beside something that looked like a spacecraft but wrong somehow. It was there and not there at the same time, existing in a state that made their eyes water. "This is the ghost ship prototype," Captain Torres explained. "It exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. When it moves, it doesn't travel through space. It chooses which version of space it wants to exist in." "How fast can it go?" General Brooks asked. "Speed isn't the right question," Torres replied. "It doesn't move fast. It just decides to be somewhere else, and then it is." President Hayes felt his worldview cracking. "How long have you been building these things?" 12 years for the ships," Director Cole answered. "But the weapons have been in development for longer." She led them to another chamber. This one was filled with devices that looked deceptively simple, small metal boxes with glowing panels, but the air around them shimmered with barely contained energy. Commander Nash stepped forward to greet them. He was a young man with the confident bearing of someone who had seen impossible things and learned to accept them. "These are quantum disruptors," he explained, gesturing to the devices. "They don't shoot bullets or energy beams. They rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in a small area around the target." "What does that do?" President Hayes asked. "Imagine if gravity suddenly worked backwards for your enemy's ship," Nash said. "Or if the strong nuclear force just stopped working in their hull. Their atoms would literally fall apart." Dr. Wells pulled up another display, but the real breakthrough came 5 years ago. We learned to weaponize time itself. The display showed a strange device that seemed to exist in fast forward and slow motion at the same time. Around it, the air moved in impossible patterns. "We call it a temporal anchor," Dr. Wells explained. "It can age a target by thousands of years in seconds, or reverse its timeline until it becomes raw materials." General Brooks finally found his voice. "Why wasn't I told about any of this?" "Because we needed the aliens to underestimate us," Director Cole said simply. "Every intelligence agency in the galaxy has been watching Earth for decades. They've seen our nuclear weapons, our jets, our satellites. They think they know what we're capable of. But they don't know about this," President Hayes said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Exactly. They've studied human warfare for 67 years, just like their ambassador said. But they've only seen the warfare we wanted them to see. Admiral Kane joined them, appearing seemingly from nowhere. He was an older man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. The Sol Defense Grid has been operational for 3 years, he reported. 237 quantum weapons platforms, disguised as communication satellites, each one capable of rewriting local physics in a sphere 10,000 kilometers across. And the fleet? Director Cole asked. 47 ghost ships ready for deployment, each one crewed by volunteers who understand they'll be fighting in 17 dimensions at once. President Hayes looked around at the impossible technology surrounding him. Can we actually win against the Dominion? Director Cole's smile was cold and sharp. Sir, we're not going to win against them. We're going to do something much worse. What's worse than losing? General Brooks asked. Making them wish they'd never heard of Earth, Admiral Kane replied. Making them understand that humans don't just fight wars. We reinvent what war means. Dr. Martinez activated one final display. It showed a map of the solar system, dotted with thousands of energy signatures that had been invisible to alien sensors. They think they're coming to collect tribute from a primitive species, she said. Instead, they're walking into a trap that violates every law of physics they understand. The countdown is at 6 days, Commander Nash reported. All systems are green. Quantum anchors are charged. The Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment. President Hayes took a deep breath. For the first time since the alien broadcast, he felt something other than fear. He felt anticipation. What's our first move when they arrive? He asked. Director Cole looked at the displays showing humanity's secret weapons, technology that could rewrite reality itself, ships that existed in multiple dimensions, and weapons that turned the laws of physics into suggestions. We give them exactly what they asked for, she said quietly. We give them tribute, just not the kind they're expecting. Above them, on the surface world, people were still panicking. Governments were debating surrender. The media was calling it humanity's darkest hour. But deep beneath the earth, in chambers that shouldn't exist, filled with technology that couldn't work, humanity's greatest minds were preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Shocked, aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn they were wrong. 7 days had passed since the ultimatum. Around the world, people held their breath and watched the skies. News channels showed empty streets in major cities. Some people had fled to underground shelters. Others gathered in churches, temples, and mosques to pray. Many simply sat at home with their families waiting. But in the hidden chambers beneath the earth, humanity's defenders were ready. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's flagship that existed in 17 dimensions at once. Through the impossible viewscreen, he could see normal space, hyperspace, and 14 other realities layered on top of each other. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, their special suits allowing them to interact with controls that existed in multiple dimensions. Sir, alien ships are entering the outer solar system, reported Lieutenant Fox from her station. Her console showed energy readings that would have been meaningless to any human from a week ago. Admiral Kane's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth Defense Command. All stations, this is Control. Operation Prometheus is now active, remember. We give them one chance to leave. After that, we show them what humans really are. Fleet Commander Vex stood in the command center of his massive dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to turn continents into ash. Behind him, 300 more warships of the Dominion, fleet spread across space like a dark cloud. Communications officer, send the final demand, Vex ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds. The message broadcast to Earth was simple. Your time is finished. Prepare for collection of tribute. Any resistance will result in immediate planetary cleansing. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Director Cole sat at a console that hummed with quantum energy. Around her, Screens showed the positions of every alien ship, every hidden human weapon, and probability calculations that changed faster than human eyes could follow. "Sir, they're moving into the inner system," reported Commander Nash. 300 ships total. The largest is impressive. President Hayes stood behind Director Cole, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens that showed impossible mathematics. "How do we compare?" "In traditional terms?" "They outgun us 1,000,000 to 1, Cole replied calmly. "But we stopped fighting. Traditionally, 15 years ago, Dr. Wells monitored the quantum field generators from his station. All reality anchors are stable. Physics is holding steady in our local area, ready to initiate changes on your command." The alien fleet moved into Earth's orbit with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Their ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Gunports opened, energy weapons charged. Shield generators hummed with power. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue-green planet below. Such a beautiful world. It will make an excellent addition to the Dominion. Communications, prepare to receive their surrender. Instead, Earth's response came from an unexpected source. "Alien Fleet, this is Director Cole of Earth Defense Command," the transmission began. The voice was calm, almost polite. "Thank you for your ultimatum. We have prepared our tribute as requested." Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Intelligent species. They understand the futility of resistance. However," Cole continued, "our tribute is not what you might expect. You demanded 50% of our resources, 30% of our population, and all our military assets. Here is our counteroffer. You have 30 seconds to leave our system. After that, you become the tribute." The alien command bridge fell silent. Vex's communications officer looked confused. "Sir, I don't understand their response." "They're trying to sound brave before they surrender," Vex laughed. "Typical primitive behavior. Begin the demonstration. Destroy one of their cities to show them we're serious." The lead dreadnought's main weapon began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive gun turret rotated toward Earth's surface. That's when humanity decided to introduce the Dominion to new rules of warfare. "Execute Operation Prometheus," Director Cole said quietly. Deep beneath the Earth, Dr. Martinez typed a single command into her console. Quantum anchor activated. The Dominion's lead dreadnought simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not destroyed, not vaporized. One moment it was there, 5 kilometers of alien death machine, and the next moment it had never been there at all. The space it occupied became empty vacuum, as if the ship had never existed. Fleet Commander Vex found himself floating in space. His command ship gone, his crew gone, everything gone. Emergency protocols kicked in as his environmental suit activated, but his mind couldn't process what had happened. "Report!" he screamed into his communicator. "What happened to my ship?" "Sir, the Eternal Dominion is gone," came a terrified voice from another vessel. "It's not destroyed, it's just not there anymore." Captain Reed watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the alien fleet panicked. Impressive. They removed a 5-kilometer ship from existence without affecting the surrounding space, not even a ripple. "Sir, alien fleet is attempting to retreat," Lieutenant Fox reported. "Too late for that," Reed replied. "All ships, execute Phase 2. The Ghost Fleet shimmered into visibility around the alien formation. 47 human ships appeared simultaneously in 17 different dimensions, surrounding the Dominion vessels in a cage of impossible geometry. Commander Nash activated the Sol defense grid. 200 hidden satellites revealed themselves, their quantum weapons charging with energy that made space itself bend and twist. "Alien Fleet, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force," he broadcast. "You wanted tribute. Allow us to demonstrate what humanity considers a fair exchange." The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire its weapons. The energy beams emerged. From the gun ports traveled 3 meters, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, becoming nothing but scattered particles. "Temporal anchor engaged," Dr. Wells reported from Earth. Their weapons are aging to dust before they can reach us. Another alien ship attempted to jump to hyperspace. Its drive engaged, the ship began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with half its hull missing. "Dimensional lock successful," reported Lieutenant Fox. "They can't escape to hyperspace. We've convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist in this area." Fleet Commander Vex, now commanding from a backup ship, watched his fleet die in ways that violated everything he understood about warfare. His ship's shields turned against them, becoming prisons that compressed their hulls. Their own gravity generators reversed, tearing vessels apart from the inside. "What are these weapons?" he demanded from his science officer. "Sir, they're not using weapons," came the terrified reply. "They're changing the laws of physics. Our shields obey their commands now. Our own systems are turning against us." A Dominion battleship tried to ram one of the human vessels. The Defiant simply existed in a different set of dimensions as the alien ship passed harmlessly through the space where it appeared to be. "Fascinating," Captain Reed observed. "They're still thinking three-dimensionally." Dr. Martinez activated another system from her underground control room. Quantum disruptor, engaged, converting their hull materials to component elements. The ramming battleship began to dissolve. Its metal hull separated into individual atoms which floated away in neat, organized patterns. The crew inside found themselves breathing vacuum, their ship literally forgetting how to be solid. In less than 10 minutes, the Dominion's fleet of 300 warships was reduced to scattered debris and escape pods. Not one human vessel had been damaged. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible scene around him. His entire fleet, the pride of the Dominion military, had been destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist using physics that couldn't work. "This is Fleet Commander Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth is not a primitive world. They have weapons that rewrite reality itself." Captain Reed's voice responded to his broadcast. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message back to your empire. Earth is under human protection now. Any attempt to return will be met with escalating responses." "What do you want? From us?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from you. But if you threaten any world under our protection, we'll come for you. And next time, we won't be so gentle." As the surviving alien escape pods fled toward the edge of the solar system, Earth's impossible weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet phased back into their hidden dimensions. Director Cole turned to President Hayes in the command center. "Sir, the alien fleet has been neutralized. Earth is secure." President Hayes looked at the displays showing empty space where 300 alien warships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" "Now we send a message to the galaxy," Cole replied. "Earth is no longer prey, we're the predators now." Above them on the surface world, people emerged from their shelters to see the stars unchanged. They didn't know that humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. But across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of the Dominion for thousands of years were about to learn that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. Day 7 arrived with clear skies across Earth. In New York, London, Tokyo, and every major city, people stayed inside and watched the news. Emergency broadcasts played on every channel, showing empty highways and closed schools. The world held its breath. But deep under the Colorado mountains, Captain Reed adjusted his uniform and walked onto the bridge of humanity's most impossible creation. The Defiance existed in multiple realities at once, its hull shimmering between dimensions like oil on water. "Status report," Reed said to his crew. Lieutenant Fox checked her instruments. The readings showed energy patterns that would have been magic to humans just days ago. "Sir, long-range sensors detect 300 alien vessels entering our solar system." "Size and weaponry?" Reed asked calmly. "The largest ship is 5 kilometers long. Energy output suggests it could destroy entire continents. The smaller vessels could level cities." Reed nodded. "And our fleet?" 47 ghost ships ready, sir. all existing in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Quantum weapons charged and ready. On Earth's surface, Admiral Kane stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed impossible mathematics. Around him, technicians worked at consoles that hummed with barely contained energy. "Admiral, the alien fleet is broadcasting," reported Commander Nash. The message filled every screen in the facility. Fleet Commander Vex appeared, a tall, gray-skinned alien with glowing red eyes and an expression of cold authority. "Humans of Earth," Vex began, his voice echoing with the power of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "Your 7 days are finished. We have come to collect our tribute. 50% of your resources, 30% of your population, all military assets. Comply now, or face extinction." Admiral Kane activated his own broadcast transmitter. "This is Admiral Kane of Earth Defense Command. We have prepared your tribute as requested." On his flagship, Fleet Commander Vex smiled with sharp teeth. "Intelligent. They understand that resistance means death. However," Kane continued, "our tribute may surprise you. You wanted our military assets. Here they are." Around Earth's orbit, 200 satellites suddenly changed. What had appeared to be simple communication devices revealed their true nature. Each one unfolded like a metal flower, exposing quantum weapon cores that made space itself ripple with power. "What are those?" demanded Vex's science officer. "Unknown, sir. They're generating energy readings that shouldn't be possible." Meanwhile, in the deep underground facility, Dr. Wells monitored systems that violated every law of physics he had learned in school. All quantum anchors stable. Reality manipulation field at full power. Director Cole sat at the main control station, her fingers poised over controls that could rewrite the fundamental rules of existence. "Alien fleet is moving into attack formation. Time to show them what humans really are." President Hayes stood, behind her, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens showing mathematics that bent his mind. "Are we really going to win this?" "Sir, we're not going to win," Cole replied with a cold smile. "We're going to teach them why they should never have come here." The Dominion fleet arranged itself in perfect formation above Earth. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying human cities, their weapons charging with enough energy to crack continents. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue planet below. Soon it would be another conquered world in the Dominion's empire, another species reduced to slavery. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered. "Destroy one of their cities. Show them the price of defiance." The main gun of his flagship began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive weapon rotated toward Earth's surface, targeting a cluster of lights that marked a human city. That's when humanity decided to introduce the galaxy to new rules of warfare. "Execute Prometheus Protocol," Director Cole said quietly into her communicator. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Martinez typed a single command: "Quantum anchor engaging. Target locked." Fleet Commander Vex watched his main display as the weapon reached full charge. "Fire," he commanded. The weapon fired. Energy blazed toward Earth's surface. Then the energy beam simply stopped existing, not blocked, not deflected. The beam fired, traveled 3 meters from the gun, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, and crumbled to dust. "What happened?" Vex demanded. "Why didn't our weapon reach the target?" His science officer stared at impossible readings. "Sir, the energy beam. It got old. Somehow it aged and died before it could travel." But that was just the beginning. "Initiating Phase 2, Captain Reed announced from the Defiance. "All ships, reveal yourselves." 47 human vessels shimmered into existence around the alien fleet. They appeared simultaneously in normal space, hyperspace, and 15 other dimensions surrounding the Dominion ships in a cage of impossible geometry. Fleet Commander Vex stared at his tactical display. "Where did those ships come from? How did they get past our sensors?" "Sir, they weren't there, and then they were," his tactical officer replied, voice shaking. "Our sensors say they exist in multiple realities at once." "Impossible. Ships can't exist in multiple dimensions. Apparently human ships can, sir. The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire at one of the human vessels. Energy beams lanced out from its weapons, striking the target directly. The beams passed harmlessly through the human ship as if it were made of mist. "Target the ship," Vex screamed. "We are targeting it, sir. Our weapons are hitting it, but it's existing in different dimensions than our energy beams." Captain Reed watched the alien weapons fire uselessly at his fleet. "Pathetic. They're still thinking in 3 dimensions. Commence the tribute collection." Dr. Wells activated another system from his underground station. Dimensional lock engaged. Their escape routes are now closed. 3 Dominion ships tried to jump to hyperspace. Their drives engaged. The ships began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with pieces missing. "Sir, we can't jump to hyperspace," reported a panicked alien voice. "Something is blocking our access. The humans have locked us in normal space," Vex's science officer reported. "They've somehow convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist here." Fleet Commander Vex felt fear for the first time in his long military career. "What kind of weapons are these?" His answer came from Captain Reed's broadcast to the alien fleet. "These aren't weapons, Commander. We're simply editing the rules of physics in our local area. Your ships now obey our commands." To demonstrate, Reed activated another system. The shields of the nearest Dominion battleship suddenly reversed themselves, becoming a crushing force that compressed the ship's hull like a tin can. "Our own shields are attacking us," screamed the battleship's captain before his transmission cut to static. Another alien vessel tried to ram the Defiance. The human ship simply chose to exist in a different set of dimensions as the alien vessel, passed harmlessly through empty space. "Impossible," whispered Vex. "Ships can't choose where to exist." "Human ships can," Reed replied, somehow hearing his comment. "We've taught our vessels to exist wherever they want to be." Dr. Martinez activated her final system. Quantum disruptor online, converting enemy hulls to component atoms. The ramming ship began to dissolve, its metal hull separating into individual atoms that floated away in perfect geometric patterns. The crew found themselves breathing vacuum as their ship forgot how to be solid. In less than 15 minutes, 300 Dominion warships became floating debris. Not one human vessel had been scratched. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible destruction around him. His entire fleet, representing the best of Dominion military might, had been destroyed by weapons that rewrote reality itself. "This is Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth has weapons that change the laws of physics. We cannot fight them." Captain Reed's voice responded calmly. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message to your empire. Earth is under human protection. Any further threats will receive escalating responses." "What do you want from the Dominion?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from your empire. But if you threaten Earth again, we'll visit your worlds. And we won't be as gentle next time." As the few surviving escape pods fled toward deep space, Earth's weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet faded back into their hidden dimensions. In the command center, President Hayes stared at displays showing empty space where hundreds of alien ships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" he asked Director Cole. "Now the galaxy learns that humans don't just fight wars," she replied. "We reinvent what warfare means." Above them, people emerged from shelters to see unchanged stars, not knowing that humanity had just become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The tribute had been paid, but not by Earth. 2 weeks after the battle at Earth, the Dominion's High Council gathered in their capital city on the world of Nexus Prime. The massive chamber had witnessed the conquest of 2,000 civilizations. Today, it hosted an emergency session that would determine the Empire's survival. Archon Vel, supreme ruler of the Dominion, sat on his throne of black metal and stared at the surviving officers from the Earth expedition. His red eyes burned with fury and something else, fear. "Explain to me." Bell said slowly. How 300 of our finest warships were destroyed by a primitive world that barely has space travel. Fleet Commander Vex stood before the council, his uniform torn and his confidence shattered. Archon, they have weapons that change reality itself. Our ships didn't just explode. They stopped existing. Their vessels exist in multiple dimensions at once. Impossible, declared General Kane, the Dominion's chief military strategist. No species has ever developed such technology. Tell that to my dead crews, Vex replied bitterly. I watched a 5-kilometer dreadnought simply vanish. Not destroyed. It never was. Their weapons age our energy beams to dust. Their ships phase through our attacks like we're shooting at ghosts. Archon Vel leaned forward. You're telling me that humans can rewrite the laws of physics? Yes, Archon, and they're not done with us. Before Vel could respond, his communications officer burst into the chamber. Archon, we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. Human ships have been sighted in 7 systems. What? Vel stood from his throne. Show me. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps. Red dots marked Dominion worlds under attack. But the attack patterns made no sense. The humans weren't conquering. They were hunting. On the world of Keth Prime, Commander Park stood in the ruins of what had been the Dominion's largest military base. Around him, his soldiers searched through empty bunkers and vacant barracks. Status report, Park said into his communicator. Lieutenant Mills checked her scanner. Sir, the base is completely empty. No bodies, no debris, no signs of battle. It's like the entire military installation just wasn't here anymore. Park nodded. This was the 7th Dominion base they had found in the same condition. Any civilians harmed? None, sir. The nearby city is untouched. The humans left the population completely alone. That was the pattern everywhere. Human forces would arrive. At a Dominion world, remove every military installation from existence, then broadcast a simple message to the civilian population. You are free. The Dominion no longer controls this world. Evacuate military personnel immediately. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Reed monitored the hunt's progress. His ship phased between dimensions as it traveled from system to system, impossible distances covered in moments. Sir, we've cleared 12 systems, reported Lieutenant Fox. All Dominion military assets removed. Civilian populations are intact and have been warned. Excellent. What's our next target? The fortress world of Sec Major. Intelligence suggests it's a major training facility for Dominion officers. Reed smiled grimly. Time to give them a lesson they'll never forget. Back on Nexus Prime, panic spread through the Dominion command structure. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Military bases simply vanishing. Warships found floating. In space, their crews aged to dust while their hulls remained pristine. Orbital defense platforms that had existed for centuries suddenly becoming empty space. How many systems have we lost? Archon Vel demanded. General Kane consulted his reports with shaking hands. 15 systems in the past week. But that's not the worst part. They're not taking the worlds, they're freeing them. What do you mean, freeing them? The humans remove our military presence completely, then broadcast messages telling the population they're no longer under Dominion rule. Several worlds have already declared independence. Vel's fury burned hotter. How many ships do the humans have? Our scouts report seeing the same vessels in multiple locations simultaneously. Either they have thousands of ships, or their vessels can exist in many places at once. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had 47 ghost ships, but each one existed in 17 dimensions. From the aliens' perspective, it looked like an endless fleet appearing everywhere at once. On the mining world of Breck 7, Sergeant Miles stood watching Dominion soldiers load onto transport ships. The aliens moved quickly, their faces filled with terror. None of them wanted to be present when the humans decided to make the military base disappear. Sir, the last transport is leaving, reported Corporal Davis. The mining colony is now free of Dominion military presence. Miles activated his communicator. Control, this is Bravo Team. Breck 7 is clear. The miners have been informed they're no longer slaves. Director Cole's voice came back from Earth. Acknowledged, Bravo team. Proceed to your next target. Miles looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, the Dominion Empire was crumbling. Not through conquest or invasion, but through precision strikes that removed their ability to control others. The pattern was always the same. Human ships would appear without warning. Dominion military forces would try to fight back. Their weapons would age to dust. Their ships would dissolve into atoms, or they would simply stop existing. Then the humans would broadcast their message and move on. Within a month, the Dominion had lost control of 50 star systems, not through territorial conquest, but through the systematic removal of their military power. On Nexus Prime, Archon, Fel called another emergency council session. The chamber was half empty. Many council members had fled to distant worlds, hoping to escape the human hunt. Status report, Vel demanded from the remaining generals. We've lost 60% of our outer territories, reported Admiral Chen, the only high-ranking officer brave enough to deliver the news. The humans aren't interested in ruling the worlds they free. They just remove our ability to control them and leave. What about our core worlds? Still secure, but for how long? These humans can appear anywhere, anytime. Our defenses are useless against weapons that rewrite reality. Vel slammed his fist on the throne. There must be something we can do. We are the Dominion. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Archon, Admiral Chen said quietly. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Vel's voice rose to a roar. With primitive humans? They're not primitive anymore. They're the most advanced military force in the galaxy. And they're systematically dismantling our empire. Before Vel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the capital city. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen. Human vessels detected in the Nexus. System. All military personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Captain Reed materialized on the bridge of the Defiance in orbit above Nexus Prime. Through the view screen, he could see the Dominion capital, a massive city of spires and towers that housed the government of a galactic empire. Sir, the planet has substantial military defenses, reported Lieutenant Fox. Orbital platforms, surface-to-space cannons, fighter squadrons. Are there civilian populations mixed with the military installations? Reed asked. Yes, sir. The capital city has both government buildings and residential areas. Reed considered this. Humanity's new doctrine was precise. Remove military threats while protecting civilians. But this would require delicate work. Activate the precision. Quantum disruptors, he ordered. We're going to perform surgery on their capital. Dr. Wells's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth. Captain, the disruptors are calibrated for surgical precision. You can remove specific buildings while leaving others untouched. Excellent. Begin the operation. On Nexus Prime, Archon Vel watched from his palace as impossible things began happening to his capital. Military barracks simply vanished, leaving empty lots between untouched civilian homes. Weapons factories disappeared, while the schools next to them remained perfectly intact. The orbital defense platforms aged to dust in seconds, but the space stations housing civilian workers continued operating normally. They're taking apart our military piece by piece, Admiral Chen whispered in amazement. But they're not harming anyone else. Vel realized the truth with growing horror. The humans weren't conquering the Dominion. They were performing a precise amputation, removing the Empire's ability to wage war while leaving everything else intact. Captain Reed broadcast to the planet below. Nexus Prime, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Your military installations have been neutralized. Civilian populations are unharmed and will remain so. This is your final warning. The Dominion Empire is finished. Surrender now, or we will continue removing your ability to threaten others. In his palace, Archon Vel stared at the empty spaces where his greatest weapons had stood just minutes before. His empire, built over 3 millennia of conquest, was being methodically dismantled by a species they had underestimated. For the first time in his long life, the supreme ruler of the Dominion understood what it meant to be prey. The hunt was almost over, and humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the Dominion first demanded tribute from Earth. Now, Archon Vel stood alone in his throne room, staring out at a capital city that had become a shadow of its former power. Half the military installations were gone, erased from existence by human weapons. The other half stood empty, their personnel fled to distant worlds. "Archon," came a voice from behind him. Admiral Chen entered the chamber, her uniform wrinkled and her eyes tired. "We've received reports from our last 3 military strongholds." Vel turned slowly. "Let me guess. The humans found them." "Yes, sir. Fortress Omega, the Keth defense grid, and our training academy on Vel Prime. All military assets removed. All personnel given 24 hours to evacuate." Vel laughed bitterly. 24 hours, how generous of them. It had become the human pattern. Arrive without warning, remove every weapon and military installation from existence, then broadcast the same message. Military forces have 24 hours to evacuate. Civilian populations are safe and free. "How many worlds have we lost?" Vel asked. "All of them," Chen replied quietly. "Every world in the Empire has declared independence. We control nothing beyond this palace." On Earth, President Hayes stood in the same command center where humanity's fate had been decided 6 months earlier. But now the displays showed a very different galaxy, one where the Dominion Empire existed only as a memory. "Final report," Director Cole announced to the assembled leaders. "The Dominion military has been completely neutralized. Every weapon, every base, every warship has been removed from existence." "Casualties?" asked General Brooks. "0 human casualties. 0 civilian casualties among former Dominion populations," reported Admiral Kane. "Our precision was perfect." Dr. Wells looked up from his monitoring station. "The galaxy is responding positively. 17 former Dominion worlds have requested Earth's protection. 43 have established peaceful governments. No conflicts reported." President Hayes felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. "What about the Dominion leadership?" "Archon Vel and his remaining council are on Nexus Prime. No military assets left, no ability to threaten anyone," Cole replied. "They're effectively powerless." Meanwhile, Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the final act unfold. His ship hung in orbit above Nexus Prime, along with the entire human fleet. 47 ghost ships existing in 17 dimensions, surrounding the Dominion capital in a display of power that was both magnificent and terrifying. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Lieutenant Fox. "Put it through." The view screen showed Archon Vel, looking older and more tired than when this all began. The supreme ruler of a dead empire spoke with a voice that carried no authority. "Captain Reed," Vel began, "I request permission to speak with your leaders." "You're speaking to them now," Reed replied. "I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of Earth." "Then I formally surrender the Dominion Empire to human authority." Reed was quiet for a moment. "We don't want your empire, Archon. We never did." "Then what do you want?" "Nothing from you. But we want something for the galaxy. Peace. No more conquered worlds. No more enslaved populations. No more tribute demanded from the defenseless." Vel's shoulders sagged. "The Dominion is finished. Our military is gone. Our weapons are destroyed. We have no power left." "Good," Reed said simply. That was the point. On Nexus Prime, in the abandoned halls of the Dominion High Council, the remaining government officials gathered for their final meeting. The chamber that had once echoed with plans for conquest now held only a handful of broken leaders. "What happens to us now?" asked General Kane, the last remaining military officer. Vel looked around the empty chamber. "The humans have made their position clear. We're free to live on any world we choose, as long as we never again attempt to build a military force." "They're not going to execute us?" asked another council member. "Apparently not. They seem more interested in preventing future wars than punishing past ones." Admiral Chen accessed her personal communicator. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the former empire. The humans are establishing something they call the Galactic Protection Agreement. What does that mean? Any world can request human protection from invasion or conquest. In return, they promise to settle disputes peacefully and never to attack other worlds. Vel understood. The humans weren't building an empire. They were building something far more dangerous to would-be conquerors. They were building peace. Back on Earth, Dr. Martinez worked in her laboratory making final adjustments to humanity's new role in the galaxy. The quantum weapons that had destroyed the Dominion were being reconfigured for a different purpose. Status. On the protection grid? Asked Director Cole over the intercom. Almost complete, Martinez replied. We're establishing quantum monitoring stations in key systems. If anyone tries to build conquest fleets like the Dominion, we'll know immediately. And response time? With the Ghost Fleet's dimensional capabilities, we can reach any threatened world within hours. The galaxy was learning new rules. Species that had lived in fear for millennia were discovering that they could develop peacefully without worrying about invasion. Trade flourished between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific advancement accelerated when resources weren't needed for weapons. But the most important change was psychological. Every species in the galaxy now knew that there was a force watching, waiting, ready to respond to any attempt at conquest with overwhelming and precise retaliation. 3 months later, Captain Reed received an unexpected visitor on the Defiance. Ambassador Tren of the Velka Republic, a species that had been enslaved by the Dominion for 800 years, stood on his bridge. Captain Reed, Tren began, my people wish to express their gratitude. No thanks necessary, Ambassador. We did what needed to be done. But why? Tren asked. You gained nothing from freeing us. You asked for no tribute, no territory, no resources. Why did you help us? Reed looked out at the stars through the view screen. Because someone needed to. The Dominion ruled through fear for 3,000 years. They convinced the galaxy that conquest was natural, that the strong should prey on the weak. And you proved them wrong. We proved that there's another way. The strong can protect the weak instead of exploiting them. Back on Nexus Prime, Vel spent his days in a small apartment, no longer a ruler but simply an old man reflecting on his choices. He had received an offer from the humans, come to Earth and help establish guidelines for peaceful governance, share knowledge of what had made the Dominion so destructive so it could never happen again. He had accepted. On his last day as a free citizen of Nexus Prime, Vel recorded a message that would be broadcast across the galaxy. I am Vel, former Archon of the Dominion Empire. For 3 millennia, my people ruled through fear and violence. We told ourselves it was natural that conquest was the way of the universe. We were wrong. He paused, looking at the empty palace visible through his window. The humans taught us, a lesson that every species should remember. True strength isn't the ability to conquer others, it's the wisdom to protect them. The Dominion demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, Earth gave the galaxy something far more valuable: freedom. 1 year after the first human victory, President Hayes stood before the United Nations, addressing not just Earth's leaders but representatives from 200 worlds across the galaxy. Today marks the first anniversary of the Galactic Protection Agreement, he began. 200 worlds have joined. 0 conflicts have occurred between member species. Trade has increased by 400%. Scientific cooperation has advanced our understanding of the universe by decades. The audience, human and alien alike, listened in respectful silence. But most importantly, Hayes continued, children across the galaxy are growing up in a universe where they don't have to fear conquest or enslavement. They can dream of exploration, discovery, and cooperation instead of war. In the back of the assembly hall, Director Cole watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The weapons that had destroyed an empire now protected a galaxy. The species that had learned to rewrite physics now used that knowledge to rewrite the rules of civilization itself. The Dominion had demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, they had given humanity a purpose that would last for millennia, ensuring that no species would ever again have to choose between slavery and death. The galaxy, had learned a new phrase, spoken in dozens of languages across hundreds of worlds. They're only human, but now it meant something different. It meant that sometimes being human was exactly what the universe needed. The empire had fallen. In its place rose something better. Not another empire, but a promise that conquest would never again be tolerated. The tribute had been paid in full. The price was tyranny itself.
Commander Jack Reed pressed his hand against the cold glass of the observation deck. The stars looked the same as they always did, cold, distant, and uncaring. But today it was different. Today, those stars might hold humanity's last chance. "Sir, you need to see this." Tom Miller, the chief engineer of the survey vessel Pathfinder, pointed at the main screen. His usually steady hands shook slightly. Jack turned away from the window and looked at the display. What he saw made no sense. Floating silently among the asteroids was a ship, a massive warship of clearly human design. "That's impossible," Jack whispered. "We don't have anything that big in this sector." Lisa Gray, the team's historian, shook her head as she studied the readings. "We don't have anything that big anywhere. This design, I've never seen anything like it." The year was 2783, and humanity was losing a war. The swarm had appeared 3 years ago, insect-like aliens that moved across the galaxy like a plague of locusts. They consumed everything in their path: planets, moons, asteroids, and people, especially people. Earth's outer colonies had fallen first, then the inner colonies. Last month, they had lost contact with Mars. Earth itself was now surrounded by the last remaining ships of the Human Defense Force. And Jack's small team was out here, at the edge of human space, looking for resources to keep the fight going for just a little longer. "Run a full scan," Jack ordered. "I want to know everything about that ship." Tom worked quickly at his station. Power readings are minimal, but there's something there. Life support is functioning at the lowest possible level. Weapons systems are dormant but intact. He looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, this technology is beyond anything we have. The energy signatures don't match any known human designs." "But it is human," Lisa insisted. She pointed to markings visible on the hull. "Those are Earth military symbols, but very old ones. I think this ship might be from the Lost Century." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The Lost Century was the period after the Third World War, when most of Earth's records were destroyed. What little they knew suggested it was a time of rapid technological advancement, before the great collapse that had set humanity back by decades. "Are you saying we're looking at a ship that's at least 300 years old?" Jack asked. Lisa nodded slowly. "At least, and if it has technology we no longer understand." The three of them shared a look. They all knew what that meant. If this ship contained lost technology, it might give humanity an edge against the swarm. "Suit up," Jack ordered. "We're going aboard." The journey to the derelict vessel took less than an hour. As they approached in their shuttle, the true size of the ship became clear. It was at least twice as large as the biggest modern battleship. "I'm picking up a docking bay," Tom said. "Looks like the doors are partially open. We should be able to get inside." The shuttle slipped through the gap in the massive hangar doors. Inside, the bay was dark except for a few emergency lights that still functioned after centuries of abandonment. Their shuttle's lights revealed rows of fighter craft, unlike any design they had ever seen. "Those look advanced," Lisa whispered through the comm in her suit, "even by our standards." They landed near the inner doors. After checking that the hangar had atmosphere, thin but breathable, they exited the shuttle. "Stay close," Jack said, "weapon ready. We don't know what's waiting for us." The ship was silent as they made their way deeper inside. Emergency lighting activated as they moved, as if the vessel was slowly waking up after a long sleep. "Main computer should be on the bridge," Tom said, following the schematics on his tablet. "If we can access it, we might learn what this ship is and why it's here." The corridors were wide and designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Everything about the ship spoke of its purpose: war. After 20 minutes of walking and riding silent elevators, they reached what appeared to be the bridge. Unlike the rest of the ship, here the lights came on at full strength as they entered. "Welcome aboard the UES Prometheus," a voice said suddenly, making them all jump. A holographic figure appeared at the center of the bridge, a man in an unfamiliar military uniform. "I am the ship's artificial intelligence interface. Authorization required for full systems activation. State nature of emergency." Jack stepped forward. "I am Commander Jack Reed of the Human Defense Force. Earth and her colonies are under attack by an alien species we call the Swarm. We're on the brink of extinction." The hologram seemed to process this information, scanning external databases. Confirmation received. Threat assessment. Extinction level. Activating Lazarus Protocol. Suddenly, the bridge lit up completely. Screens came to life all around them, showing ship systems powering up. "What's the Lazarus Protocol?" Lisa asked. "The Lazarus Protocol is the final contingency plan," the AI replied. "The Prometheus was built as humanity's insurance policy. If all other defenses failed against the predicted alien threat, this vessel and its crew would serve as the last line of defense." "Crew?" Jack asked, looking around the empty bridge. In answer, the AI directed them to a sealed door at the back of the bridge. When it opened, they saw rows of cryopods stretching into the distance. Inside each pod was a person, sleeping peacefully, unaware that centuries had passed. "The crew of the Prometheus has been in suspended animation since the ship was launched in 2435, the AI explained. "They are the best scientists, engineers, and soldiers of their time, equipped with knowledge and technology that was later lost." "Why?" Lisa asked. "Why hide away your most advanced ship and best people?" "Because our scientists predicted the coming of the Swarm over 300 years ago," the AI said. "We knew humanity's initial defenses would likely fail. The Prometheus was designed to be forgotten, hidden away until it was truly needed." The first of the cryopods began to open with a hiss of escaping air. Inside, a man with graying hair opened his eyes for the first time in centuries. "Captain Robert Wells," the AI announced. "Commander of the Prometheus." The man looked around in confusion, then focused on Jack and his team. "How long?" he asked, his voice hoarse from centuries of disuse. 348 years, Captain," the AI answered. "And humanity needs you now." As Wells struggled to sit up, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The AI's hologram flickered. "Warning. Swarm vessels detected approaching this sector. Estimated time to arrival: 6 hours. Jack looked at Wells, then at the rest of the crew, still waking from their long sleep. These people from the past were now their best hope for a future. "We need to get this ship operational," Jack said. "And we need to do it fast." Captain Robert Wells stood shakily on the bridge of the Prometheus, his body still adjusting after centuries in cryo-sleep. Around him, his crew was slowly waking up, helped by Jack's team. 30 men and women chosen from Earth's best, now strangers in a time they were never meant to see. 348 years, Wells repeated, his voice stronger now. "Everyone we knew is long dead." "Yes, sir," the ship's AI confirmed. "But your mission remains active. The Swarm threat has arrived as predicted." Wells looked at the modern humans with narrowed eyes. "Our orders were clear. Protect Earth at all costs." Jack stepped forward. "Captain, things have changed. Humanity has spread to hundreds of worlds. The Swarm isn't just attacking Earth. They're consuming every human colony they find. Hundreds of worlds." A woman's voice came from behind them. Anna Davis, the ship's tactical officer, had joined them on the bridge. Her short blonde hair was still wet from the revival process. "We barely had a dozen colonies when we went to sleep. A lot has changed," Lisa said gently, "but much has been lost too. After the Third World War, There was a period we call the lost century. Most records from your time were destroyed. Wells exchanged looks with Anna. Jack could see the pain in their eyes as they realized that not only were their loved ones gone, but even their memory had been erased from history. "Captain," the AI interrupted, "swarm vessels will reach our position in 5 hours, 23 minutes. Recommend immediate activation of primary systems." Wells straightened his back. Whatever he was feeling, he pushed it aside. Status of the ship: all critical systems functional. Weapon systems at 92% capacity. Dimensional drive requires calibration. Tom's head snapped up. Dimensional drive. What's that? Anna smiled slightly. That's why they'll never see us coming. Over the next 3 hours, the two crews worked together to prepare the ship. More of the ancient crew woke from cryo-sleep, including Dr. Mark Evans, the chief medical officer, and Susan Ford, the ship's engineer. They were all disoriented and shocked to learn how much time had passed, but they were professionals. They had a job to do. Tom followed Susan through the ship's massive engine room, asking question after question. "So this dimensional drive, it lets you travel faster than light?" Susan shook her head. "No, that's what the standard FTL drive is for. The dimensional drive does something else entirely." She led him to a sealed chamber at the heart of the engine room. Inside was a sphere of swirling blue energy, contained within layers of transparent barriers. "It phases the ship between dimensions," she explained. "In simple terms, it can make the Prometheus exist partially outside normal spacetime. We can see and attack the enemy, but they can't fully see or attack us." Tom stared at the sphere in awe. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be massive." Susan finished for him. "Yes, that's why no one could replicate it after us. The materials needed are extremely rare. We had to strip entire asteroids of certain elements to build this drive." Tom's face fell. "And we'd need those same elements to repair it." Susan nodded grimly. "Yes, and I'm guessing they're still rare in your time." "Rarer," Tom confirmed. "The swarm consumes everything, including the asteroids and moons where those elements are found." On the bridge, Jack and Wells were locked in an argument about strategy. "We need to join the main fleet," Jack insisted. "Earth needs every ship it can get." Wells shook his head. "That's exactly what we can't do. The Prometheus was built to operate alone. If the swarm learns what we can do, they'll adapt. They always adapt." "How do you know that?" "You've never fought them." "Haven't we?" Wells pulled up an image on the main screen, a detailed scan of a swarm ship. "We call them the Devourers in our time. Our scientists detected their approach centuries before they reached human space. We built the Prometheus specifically to fight them." Jack stared at the image. "But why hide the ship? Why not build a fleet of them?" "Resources," Anna explained, joining the conversation. "The technology in this ship couldn't be mass-produced, and our leaders believe that if the swarm encountered our best weapons too early, they would evolve counters before we could build enough to matter. So they sacrifice your time, your lives." Lissa asked, horrified. "We volunteered," Wells said quietly, "to be humanity's last line of defense, to be forgotten until we were needed most." The ship's alarms blared suddenly. "Multiple swarm vessels detected," the AI announced. "They have altered course. A human colony is under attack. Colony designation: New Haven. Population: approximately 800,000. Wells looked at Jack. "How far?" 20 minutes at top speed," Jack answered. "But if we go there, we reveal ourselves to the swarm." Wells was silent for a moment. Then he turned to Anna. "Battle stations. Prepare all weapons. Program a jump to New Haven." "Captain," Anna said cautiously, "our orders were to protect Earth specifically." Wells looked around at his crew, people who had given up everything they knew to serve a future they would never see, and at Jack's team, desperate but determined. "Earth has changed," Wells said. Humanity has changed, but our mission remains the same: ensure human survival. He turned back to the controls. We fight for all of humanity now, not just one world. The Prometheus arrived at New Haven with a flash of light. The colony was a small settlement on a rocky moon, surrounded by swarm ships. On the surface, fires were already burning as the aliens began their consumption. Targeting systems online, Anna reported. Dimensional drive at 70% capacity. That will have to do, Wells said. Engage the drive. Bring us to partial phase. Target the 3 largest swarm ships first. The air around the Prometheus shimmered as the dimensional drive activated. The ship seemed to flicker, becoming semi-transparent. Fire main batteries, Wells ordered. Beams of energy lashed out from the Prometheus, cutting through the first swarm ship as if it were made of paper. The alien vessel split apart, its pieces tumbling into space. Second target, Anna called. Firing. 2 more swarm ships exploded before the aliens realized they were under attack. The remaining ships turned to face the new threat, but their weapons passed through the Prometheus as if it were a ghost. They can't touch us, Jack whispered in amazement. Not while we're phased, Wells confirmed. But we can only maintain this state for short periods. The strain on the drive is too great. The Prometheus continued its attack, moving through the swarm fleet like an avenging spirit. Each shot found its mark, while enemy fire passed harmlessly through the phased ship. In less than 30 minutes, it was over. The swarm ships were destroyed or retreating. New Haven was saved. As the Prometheus returned to normal phase, the crew erupted in cheers. They had won their first battle. But Wells and Jack exchanged knowing looks. This was just the beginning. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving transmissions from New Haven. They're asking who we are. Tell them, Wells said after a moment's thought. Tell them the Prometheus has returned, and we've come to take back what belongs to humanity. As the message was sent, Jack looked at the ship's systems. The dimensional drive was damaged from the battle. Power levels were fluctuating, and they had used nearly a quarter of their ammunition. One battle won, but the war for humanity's survival had just begun. Word of the mysterious ship that saved New Haven spread quickly. The Prometheus became a symbol of hope for the scattered human forces, a ghost ship that appeared from nowhere, destroyed the swarm, and vanished again. Admiral Wilson is demanding we join the main fleet, Jack said, showing Captain Wells the message they had received. They stood in the Prometheus's war room, looking at a map of human space. There weren't many human-controlled systems left. And I keep telling you that's exactly what we can't do, Wells replied, his voice tired but firm. The Prometheus works best alone. We strike, we disappear. The moment we join the fleet, we become a target. Anna nodded in agreement. The swarm adapts quickly. Every engagement we have gives them more data. They're already trying to track our dimensional shifts. Tom and Susan entered the war room, both looking exhausted. They had been working non-stop to repair the dimensional drive since the battle at New Haven. We've got it stable again, Susan reported, but the damage is worse than I thought. We need to replace several key components. What do we need? Wells asked. Dimensional crystals, Tom answered. The same rare materials used to build the original drive. We might find them in certain types of asteroids, but the swarm is consuming those same resources, Jack finished. That's why they target mining colonies first. Wells sighed. How many more jumps can we make with the drive in its current condition? 3, maybe 4 full combat engagements, Susan estimated. After that, the risk of drive failure increases dramatically. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Without the dimensional drive, the Prometheus lost its greatest advantage. Then we make them count, Wells decided. Anna, show me the swarm command structure. What have we learned about their communication network? Anna brought up a new display. The swarm operates as a hive mind, but it's not completely unified. They have command nodes, larger ships that coordinate the smaller ones in each sector. If we take out these command nodes, Jack began, we disrupt their entire attack pattern. Wells finished. Exactly. We don't need to destroy every swarm ship. We just need to cut off the head. The plan was taking shape when the ship's AI interrupted. Emergency transmission from the Arcturus system. Swarm high ship detected approaching the human colonies there. Everyone turned to the main screen. The image showed a massive swarm vessel, at least 10 times larger than any they had encountered before. That's not just a command node, Anna said quietly. That's a primary high ship. It carries millions of swarm units and can consume an entire planet's resources in days. How many people in the Arcturus system? Wells asked. 3 populated worlds, Jack answered. Total population around 5 billion. Wells looked at Susan. Will the drive hold for this? She hesitated. It's risky, but yes, we should be able to handle one major engagement. Then prepare for jump to Arcturus, Wells ordered. All hands to battle stations. The Prometheus arrived at the edge of the Arcturus system. The high ship was already approaching the outermost planet, with hundreds of smaller swarm vessels surrounding it. That thing is massive, Lisa whispered, staring at the scans. How can we possibly stop it? We can't, Wells admitted. Not alone. But we don't have to. He pointed to another part of the system, where ships were gathering. The human fleet is here. Admiral Wilson must have ordered every remaining warship to defend Arcturus. It's still not enough, Anna said, studying the tactical display. Even with us, we're outnumbered 10 to 1. Then we need to be smarter, Wells said. Jack, open a channel to Admiral Wilson's flagship. Admiral Karen Wilson appeared on screen, her face showing surprise at seeing Wells. So the rumors are true. A ghost ship from the past. No time for explanations. Admiral, Wells said. We need to coordinate our attack. The Prometheus has technology your ships don't, but we need your fleet to keep the smaller swarm ships busy. Wilson's eyes narrowed. Why should I trust you? Because New Haven is still standing, Jack cut in. Because this ship has already proven what it can do. And because we're all dead if we don't work together. Wilson studied them for a moment, then nodded. What's your plan? The battle began as the swarm noticed the human fleet approaching. The smaller alien ships moved to intercept, while the massive high ship continued toward the planets. Human fleet engaging the swarm escorts, Anna reported. Our window opens in 3 minutes. Dimensional drive at full power, Susan called from her station. Ready on your command. Wells looked around the bridge at his ancient crew and their new allies from the future. This is what we were built for. This is why we slept for centuries. Let's remind the swarm why humans should never be underestimated. The Prometheus accelerated forward, its outline beginning to shimmer as the dimensional drive activated. The ship phased partially out of normal space, becoming ghost-like. Releasing drone swarm, Anna announced. Hundreds of small fighter drones launched from the Prometheus, each one sharing the ship's phasing ability. They spread out in a web pattern, surrounding the high ship. Admiral Wilson's fleet has engaged the swarm escorts, the communications officer reported. They're drawing them away from the high ship as planned. Now, Wells ordered, full power to weapons. Target the high ship's primary sensor array. The Prometheus and its drones attacked simultaneously. Beams of energy cut through the high ship's outer shell, targeting key systems identified by Anna's tactical analysis. The high ship responded, firing massive energy weapons. Most passed harmlessly through the phased Prometheus, but a few found their mark as the ship briefly returned to normal space to fire its weapons. Hull breach on Deck 7. Someone shouted. Emergency teams responding. Drive stability at 64% and dropping. Susan warned. We can't maintain phase for much longer. Wells gripped his chair as the ship shook under another hit. Continue the attack. Target their propulsion systems next. The battle raged for nearly an hour. The human fleet fought valiantly against the swarm escorts, while the Prometheus and its drones continued their assault on the high ship. Finally, a series of explosions rippled across the high ship's surface. Their main power core is destabilizing. Anna reported, a note of triumph in her voice. They're losing control. Wells turned to the communications officer. Tell Admiral Wilson to pull back her ships. The high ship is going to. He never finished the sentence. The high ship exploded in a blinding flash, the shockwave hitting the Prometheus with tremendous force. When the crew picked themselves up off the floor, half the bridge systems were offline. Smoke filled the air, and emergency alarms wailed throughout the ship. Damage report, Wells called out, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. Dimensional drive severely damaged. Susan replied through the static of a damaged comm system. Multiple hull breaches. Weapon systems at 30% capacity. Jack helped Lisa to her feet and looked at the tactical display. The remaining swarm ships were in disarray, being picked off by Admiral Wilson's fleet. We did it, he said in disbelief. We actually did it. Wells nodded, but his expression remained grim. We won the battle. But at what cost? The casualty reports began coming in. Several crew members were dead, including Dr. Mark Evans, who had been caught in an explosion while helping wounded crew members. As the Prometheus limped away from the battlefield, the reality of their situation became clear. They had struck a major blow against the swarm, but their ship was badly damaged. The dimensional drive that gave them their advantage was barely functioning, and somewhere out there, the main swarm force was learning, adapting, and preparing for their next encounter with the ship that had emerged from the past. The Prometheus drifted silently through space, far from any star system. After the battle at Arcturus, Admiral Wilson had provided coordinates to this hidden location, an abandoned mining outpost in an unnamed system, where the remaining human forces gathered to repair and regroup. In the ship's medical bay, Captain Wells sat on an examination table while a doctor checked the burns on his arm. The radiation damage is spreading, the doctor said quietly. It's affecting your internal organs now. Wells nodded, his face showing no surprise. How long? Weeks, maybe a month. The doctor hesitated. Sir, if we had better medical facilities. We don't, Wells cut him off. And you know as well as I do that this is happening to all of us from the original crew. The cryo chambers were damaged long before we were found. The doctor couldn't argue with that. The centuries-long sleep had taken its toll. The radiation that had leaked into the cryo chambers during their long wait was slowly killing the original crew members. Wells pulled his sleeve down over the burns. Don't tell the others yet. We have work to do. In the engine room, Tom and Susan worked side by side on the damaged dimensional drive. The heart of the device, the swirling blue sphere, now flickered and pulsed erratically. If we reroute power through these conduits, Tom suggested, pointing to his diagram, we might be able to stabilize it enough for one more jump. Susan studied his work. That could work, but it's not enough. We need those dimensional crystals. What exactly do these crystals do? Tom asked. You never fully explained. Susan was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to share. They don't just let us phase between dimensions. With the right configuration, they can create a dimensional rift, a tear in the fabric of reality. Tom stared at her. Are you saying the drive is actually a weapon? It was always meant to be both, Susan admitted. A way to travel undetected, yes, but also a last resort weapon against the swarm. Why haven't you used it that way? Because creating a rift that size would destroy the ship too, Susan explained. It was intended as a suicide option if all else failed. Their conversation was interrupted when Jack entered the engine room. Admiral Wilson is calling a war council. She wants both of you there. The war room was crowded with officers from the Prometheus and several other ships. Admiral Wilson stood at the head of the table, her face grim. Earth has fallen, she announced without preamble. The swarm overwhelmed our defenses 12 hours ago. They're consuming the planet's resources as we speak. A heavy silence fell over the room. Jack thought of the blue oceans and green continents he had seen in pictures. Earth, humanity's birthplace, now being devoured by the alien horde. "What about evacuation ships?" someone asked. "Some got away," Wilson answered. "They're heading to the outer colonies, but the swarm is pursuing. At the current rate, they'll reach every remaining human settlement within weeks." Wells looked around the room. "Then we strike now. Hit their main neural cluster. Cut off the head of the snake." Wilson shook her head. "We don't know where it is." "Actually," Anna said, stepping forward, "we might." She activated the room's holographic display, showing a map of nearby star systems. "We've been analyzing the swarm's movement patterns and communication signals. All evidence points to a central control node in this system." She highlighted a star system at the edge of the map. "That's deep in swarm territory," Wilson objected. "We'd never get close enough." "The Prometheus could," Wells said quietly. "With the dimensional drive, we could slip past their defenses." Susan exchanged a look with Tom. "Sir, the drive isn't stable enough for combat operations. We could maybe manage one more jump." But what?" Wells prompted. Tom took a deep breath. "Susan has been explaining more about the drive's capabilities. It could potentially be modified to create a dimensional rift inside the swarm's neural cluster." The room fell silent as everyone realized what he was suggesting. "A suicide mission," Jack said finally. Wells nodded. "It always was. We just didn't know it would take 3 centuries to complete." While the others continued planning the attack, Lisa made her way to the ship's main data core. As a historian, she had been granted access to the Prometheus's archives, hoping to learn more about the ship's origins. What she found shocked her. The Prometheus project was never meant to save humanity. She explained to Jack later, as they sat alone in a quiet corner of the mess hall. It was designed to preserve human knowledge and achievement after extinction was deemed inevitable. She showed him the original mission parameters on her tablet. "This ship contains the most complete database of human culture, science, and history ever compiled." The crew was supposed to wait until the swarm had moved on, then find a suitable planet to restart human civilization. Jack stared at the document. They were meant to be the seeds of a new human race, not saviors of the existing one. "Exactly," Lisa said. "The Prometheus was humanity's time capsule, not its defender." "Does Wells know?" "I think he's always known," Lisa replied. "But he chose a different path." They all did. As repairs on the ship continued, Wells called Jack to his quarters. The captain looked worse each day, the radiation sickness taking its toll. His skin was pale, and his hands trembled slightly. "I need to ask something of you," Wells said, his voice weaker than before. "When we go after the swarm homeworld, and we will, someone needs to command this ship." Jack shook his head. "That's your job, Captain." "Not for much longer." Wells held up his hand to stop Jack's protest. "We both know I'm dying. All of us from the original crew are. The radiation damage from the cryo chambers can't be reversed." He walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "We were willing to give up everything for a future we would never see. That hasn't changed, but someone needs to carry on after we're gone." Jack stood beside him. "I'm not ready to command a ship like this." "No one ever is," Wells said with a small smile. "But you understand both worlds, ours and yours. You can bridge the gap between past and future." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Swarm ships detected." Anna's voice came over the comm system. "Multiple vessels approaching the base. They've found us." Wells straightened, pushing aside his weakness. "Looks like our timetable just moved up." "Battle stations," Commander Reed. "It's time to see if your future was worth our sacrifice." As they hurried to the bridge, Jack glanced at the captain. Whatever happened next, he knew that humanity's last hope rested not just in the technology of this ancient ship, but in the will of its crew, past and present, to face impossible odds together. The Prometheus shuddered as another blast hit its shields. Around them, the hidden base burned, human ships fighting desperately against the swarm forces that had found their sanctuary. Shields at 43%. Anna reported from her station. "We can't take much more of this." Captain Wells stood at the center of the bridge, somehow looking stronger despite his illness. In the face of battle, he had found new reserves of strength. "We're not going to stay and fight," he announced. "This is the moment we've been waiting for. The swarm has committed most of their forces to this attack on Earth. Their homeworld will never be more vulnerable." Jack looked at him in surprise. "We're jumping now." "But the drive isn't fully repaired." "It's repaired enough for what we need to do," Wells said. He turned to Susan at the engineering station. "Is the dimensional rift modification complete?" She nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. Once activated, we'll have approximately 10 minutes before the drive overloads and creates the rift. After that," she didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. Wells looked around the bridge at his crew, his original team from centuries past, and the new allies they had found in this time. "I won't order anyone to come on this mission. It's volunteer only." "I'm in," Jack said immediately. "Me too," Anna added. One by one, every person on the bridge volunteered. Tom, Susan, Lisa, all of them willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Wells nodded, not surprised but clearly moved. "Send the coordinates to Admiral Wilson. Tell her to gather whatever forces she can spare and launch a diversionary attack. We'll need every advantage we can get." He turned to the helm. "Set course for the swarm homeworld. Prepare for dimensional jump." The jump took them to the edge of the swarm's home system. Unlike human space with its planets and moons, this system was a chaotic mess. The swarm had consumed and transformed everything here, creating massive organic structures around the central star. "My God," Lisa whispered as they looked at the sensor readouts. "It's like they've built a Dyson sphere." "Not built," Wells corrected. "Grown. The entire system is one massive organism now." The ship's AI highlighted one section of the structure. Sensor analysis indicates this is the location of the primary neural cluster, the command center for the entire swarm consciousness. Wells studied the display. "That's our target. Anna, plot a course that keeps us away from their defensive positions. Susan, how's the dimensional drive holding up?" "Stable for now," she replied. "But once we activate the rift sequence, there's no turning back." Admiral Wilson reports her fleet is ready to launch their diversion, the communications officer announced. Wells nodded. "Tell her to begin, and may God be with them all." On the tactical display, they watched as the remaining human fleet appeared at the far edge of the system, immediately drawing the attention of dozens of swarm ships. "Now's our chance," Wells said. "Engage dimensional drive. Take us in." The Prometheus shimmered as it phased partially out of normal space. Even in its damaged state, the drive allowed them to slip past the outer swarm defenses undetected. But as they approached the heart of the system, the ship began to flicker back into normal space. "The neural cluster is affecting the drive," Susan reported, her fingers flying over her controls. "The psychic energy is interfering with our phase state." "Can you compensate?" Wells asked. She shook her head. "Not from here. Someone would need to go to the drive core and manually stabilize the field generators." Wells stood. "I'll go." "Captain," Jack began to protest, but Wells cut him off. "This is my ship, Commander, and my time is already running out." He touched the burns visible on his neck, evidence of the radiation poisoning. This is how it was always meant to be. Before anyone could stop him, Wells left the bridge, heading for the engine room. Deep in the ship, Wells worked quickly at the drive core controls. With each adjustment, the swirling blue sphere grew more stable, allowing the Prometheus to continue its approach to the swarm neural cluster. "How close are we?" he asked through his comlink. 2 minutes to optimal firing position," Jack's voice replied. "Drive stability is improving. Whatever you're doing is working." Wells didn't answer. He knew what needed to be done next. The final stabilization required direct contact with the drive core, a fatal amount of exposure to the dimensional energies. "Jack," he said finally, "I'm activating the rift sequence now. Once it starts, you'll have exactly 10 minutes to get the ship to safety." "What about you?" Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. "Tell them." Wells paused. "Tell them we kept our promise. After 300 years, we kept our promise." With those words, he locked open the safety barriers and stepped into the chamber housing the drive core. The blue energy engulfed him as he reached for the main control rod. Pain unlike anything he had ever experienced tore through his body, but he forced himself to focus. With the last of his strength, he pushed the control rod into position, fully activating the rift sequence. "It's done," he whispered into his comm. "Get our people home, Commander Reed." On the bridge, Jack watched as the captain's life signs flatlined on the monitor. There was no time to mourn. "Drive core stable. Rift sequence initiated," Susan reported, her voice tight with emotion. 9 minutes, 40 seconds to full overload. "Get us as close to the neural cluster as possible," Jack ordered. "We need to be sure the rift forms in the right place." The Prometheus pushed deeper into the heart of the swarm system, now fully visible as the dimensional drive focused all its power on the coming rift. Swarm ships rushed to intercept them, but it was too late. 5 minutes to overload, Susan called out. "We need to start pulling back now if we want to escape the blast radius." Jack hesitated. Someone needed to ensure the ship stayed on target until the very end. "Everyone to the escape pods," he ordered suddenly. "Now." "Jack, what are you doing?" Tom asked, alarmed. "Finishing the mission," Jack replied. "The ship needs to stay on course until the last possible moment. The rest of you can get clear in the pods." Anna stood from her station. "That's not happening. We started this together. We'll finish it together." One by one, the bridge crew returned to their stations. 2 minutes to overload, Susan announced. "The rift is beginning to form." Around them, the swarm ships scattered in confusion as space itself began to tear open near the neural cluster. A blinding light erupted from the growing rift, consuming everything it touched. 30 seconds. Susan's voice was calm despite everything. "It's working. The neural cluster is being pulled into the rift." Across human space, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Swarm ships suddenly lost coordination, their attacks becoming disorganized and ineffective. The hive mind was dying. As the dimensional rift reached its full power, engulfing the entire neural cluster, the Prometheus made one final desperate jump away from the blast zone. The ancient ship, damaged beyond repair, limped back toward human space with its mixed crew of past and present. They had done it. At terrible cost, they had saved humanity. 6 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the new human settlement on Mars. The rebuilding was underway across all surviving colonies. The Prometheus was gone, too damaged to repair. But its technology and the knowledge stored in its database were revolutionizing human science. And most importantly, the swarm was defeated, reduced to scattered, mindless groups that posed no threat without their central consciousness. "Captain Reed," the voice called. He turned to see Lisa approaching, carrying a small memorial plaque. "It's ready," she said, "for the monument." Jack read the inscription. "For the crew of the Prometheus, who slept for centuries to save a future they would never know. Humanity remembers." As Jack looked up at the stars, he thought of Captain Wells and his crew, forgotten by history, until they returned to make history. Their sacrifice had given humanity a second chance, and Jack intended to make sure it counted.